Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan. $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
I'm James Brown, and this is Sober Awkward.
The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
James, I've heard you describe yourself recently as just a writer, which I feel is slightly underplaying what you do and maybe what you have done in your career. For some, you're one of the most influential people in the magazine industry in UK history. You were the feature editor of NME at just 22 years old, the founding editor of Loaded, which was the first men's mass market lifestyle magazine, and became synonymous with bad behaviour in the 90s. You then went on to work at GQ, where you're responsible for creating the GQ Man of the Year Awards and played a significant role in launching the career of a little-known chef called Jamie Oliver by giving him a food column before he was the man he is today. You've also described yourself as a Libra, defensive midfielder, dad, Leeds football fan, benefit the tape, currently wearing a Leeds United top, writer, former editor. Most importantly for today, you are, am I right in saying 26 years sober?
Is what year? We're 24.
24.
Yeah, I got sober February 98. And somebody said to me a couple of years ago, in a meeting, they said, how on earth do you get, I think at that point it was about like 20 years. So I got no idea. All I know is that I stay sober and clean for a day. And it really is. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a simple thing to do. It's hard, but it's simple. So that was that.
How's today? How are you feeling today?
Well, I feel great. You know, I think the difference in my life now is, especially as I'm a lot. 26 is a long time. It's half the life, half my life almost. So I think the difference between now and when I drank is if I feel something and it bothers me, I've got a little bit of space to have a think about why is it bothering me and try and get some perspective on it and think about how I can behave in a way that makes me feel better. Whereas back then it was just, let's just get drunk. That'll solve it. And so that's the main difference. I actually I haven't told anyone this apart from my girlfriend when I came in. On Wednesday night I got into a fight with a drunk in the street.
Really? Okay. How did that start? Were you wearing a Leeds top in London?
No, I was just walking up the street. This guy was really fucked.
Yeah.
His face was all marked with the scars of alcoholism. He had the pain in his eyes. He was just... He had the suntan of a guy slept in the park. And he had a bottle of wine, a third full. A third empty. You know, there was a third of it left. And he was staggering along. And as I walked past, I said, "You okay?" And he just turned on me. He got right in my face. And he was fucking, he was totally out of control. And, what you're supposed to do in that moment is thinking, okay, this is a fellow alcoholic. This is somebody who's in the midst of the worst parts of their drinking. You're supposed to try and have some serenity. I just started going at him. I said, all right. And he just didn't stop. And something flipped in me. And, being honest, it was the excitement of the chaos of the moment.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not tough, you can see, but I have boxed a little bit. And I thought, I'm going to hit him, left foot, left hand. He won't even see it. And then I started like prepping up, measuring how far he was, trying to talk him away, but he was still coming right in my face. And being honest, I got quite excited.
Yeah.
About the fight. In fact, I was quite of some really intense, short, fast, violent interaction, which I haven't been in that situation for a long time, And I started walking away. He started coming back, and he was still screaming and shouting. This was in a lovely park up there, up in the edge of Islington, really nice fields, and he started coming back at me. And I thought, oh, just fuck this. And I had a rucksack on and a bomb bag across my chest. I thought, should I take this off? I said, no, I'll be able to do this. This will take 2 punches, one max. I know this is not the sort of talk you would expect to hear from somebody who's 20.
That we're here off the bat.
I've spent a lot of time helping people with drink problems. But I'm just being honest about it. And he came out and I said, put the bottle down. Because I wanted to get the bottle out of the way. I didn't want to get blinded or smashed in the head or anything. And as I was rearing up, I was just thinking, I'm going to smack him now, as he's coming back into my face. And as I heard myself put the bottle down, I heard all of the thousands and thousands of positive, constructive words that I've been able to soak up by fraternising with other people who've had drink problems and managed to get through it. And it immediately flipped me out. I said, put the bottle down. Your life's good. I just changed tack. Because a minute ago, I was going, I'm going to fuck him. I was angry and aggressive with him. I was reflecting what he'd done and how he was towards me. And I was angry because I thought he could have been doing this to somebody who wasn't comfortable, who was scared. I wasn't scared of the guy. I was enjoying it. But then the moment I said, put the bottle down, I just flipped into the recovery me. I said, put the bottle down. Your life's going to be better. Put it down. Put it, And he goes, I am an alcoholic. I said, I am as well. And he looked really askance. I said, I haven't had a drink for 26 years. Now, I never got he clearly lives this every day, every minute of every day. But I'd been in those scenarios where I was out of control. More at the end of like the binge drinking and the excess of what was going on in my life at the time. And he looked confused. Then he started going, I want to drink it. I said, yeah, I wanted to drink it as well. I said, I said a few other things, that might be, but he kind of stopped being aggressive then, but he just looked confused and turned, and then he didn't come anywhere near me anymore. Something maybe got through. And that was it. And I walked off, and this lady came up to me and said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "He's not in a good place." How I was reacting wasn't the constructive way, but it was a flashback. Not his behaviour. His behaviour reminded me of me, but probably like half the amount of where he was in his life. Because I was functioning, I was behaving drunk and out of control when I was the editor of the year in Britain, or, sort of fated in the media or whatever. But I had situations like that, and it was a flashback to what I was like when I was excited by chaos. And that really was what was just so frequent when I drank. fights, waking up in other... I went out for a night in Lima in Peru one night, and the next day I woke up in Bogota. That's not an exaggeration. I was like about 400 quid lighter.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I just thought, right, I went there because I knew somebody in Bogota who could get me some drugs.
Yeah.
It's like if we set off on a night out now in London and ended up in Athens. Mm-hmm. It's like a different country.
Well, it's interesting what you've touched on there, actually. It's last night we did the show and I got asked the question, is there anything about drinking that you miss? And actually, the exciting chaos that you've just referenced is it. I mean, I think when you're sober, you sort of live, I said last night, between about a 4 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10. And when you're drinking and doing drugs, there's the 9 and 10 out of 10s and there's the 1 and 2 out of 10s.
Yeah, that's true. It's much more extreme.
We don't have that exciting chaos. So I'm not surprised, even after 26 years, that you've gone, oh, this is an exciting, chaotic situation to get back into.
Not even just the chaos. Not knowing where you're going to be is exciting. You know, if you've got a music festival like Glastonbury or something, I used to love going to Glastonbury when I could drink. And, you just never know who you're going to meet, where you're going to go. It's the same if you're out if you get caught up with a crowd of people in a bar, you don't even know them. You say, let's go on to the next place, or you end up in a party or whatever. But what happened in the end was that not knowing where I would be at 4 a.m. at the very end for me, I didn't like that. Because it was repetitive. I'd end up usually with people I didn't want to be with. I had better people at home I should have been with, and it's funny how the things that draw you to it are the things in the end that kind of repel you from it. That's what I felt anyway.
It was interesting researching for this conversation. I read your book Animal House, which was fantastic.
You've read Animal House?
Yeah.
On Quercus
and
Audible.
I did it on Audible, so you're very much your voice. But I giggled my way through all of it. Well, not all of it, because I was pretty serious. But I was sort of looking at similarities between our stories. You grew up in Leeds.
Yeah.
Were you on or near Kirkstall Street, next to Headingley?
Off it.
Just off it, right. And I grew up Kirkstall Road in London, not far from the
When
Oval.
it was Kirkstall Lane.
That's it, Kirkstall Lane.
Any Aussies who are historical cricket fans will know Headingley.
Yeah.
Like we know the Gabba. And so when you see that shot from behind the pavilion looking across the wicket to the Kirkstall Lane end where they bowl from, and you see rows of red brick terrace houses, that's why I lived in one of them.
Yeah. So but
it was a nice area, Headingley was a nice area, mainly students and families.
And on the surface of it, you had a sort of ordinary childhood in that you are the kid that loved football, loved music. And then your career, I've heard you described, or most people's careers go sort of in a slow upward trajectory. Yours immediately exploded.
It's like a hand grenade.
Yeah, in your early 20s. And I think, at the core of that all, that I think, some people look at that story and go, I can't relate to that.
Even before that, to be honest.
Go on.
I was having stuff printed when I was at school. When I was 17, 18 at the end of my school. I wasn't doing very well at education. I already drank a lot. I used to never like beer. I thought I couldn't see the point of drinking beer. Beer seemed like alcohol for people who didn't want to get drunk.
Yeah.
You could get drunk much quicker drinking cider, or later I just drank vodka and tequila and wine and champagne. But I was drinking a lot back then, but I was writing a lot as well. So even 18, 19, I was getting checks.
Yeah.
Published and stuff.
So you knew what you wanted pretty early on?
Totally.
There are sort of some themes in that book which I feel like a lot of people listening to this would be able to relate to. Themes are trying to deal with having a sick parent, or the fact that the success of your career seemed to sort of legitimise your behaviour and your addiction because society's saying, well, you're doing a good job, so why should I stop? But the truth is your childhood was anything but normal. I mean, your mum is someone that I like to sort of circle back to throughout this conversation if I can. Because she's such an important person in your life and I feel like in your story. So she suffered with her mental illness and would spend time in Hyroids, psychiatric hospital. Sadly, she got on to take on her own life in 92 when you were just 26. What are your memories of her being sick as a child? How do you think it sort of affected
being
your
ill?
upbringing? Yeah.
Well, it's a good question. Nobody's asked me that. When I was really little, just a lot of shouting. and she's been upset and worried a lot. And then sort of through, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't remember that much. I don't remember being ill. And then in the teens, she started having to go into hospital probably once, and then another time 3, 4 years later, then a few more times. So it became more prevalent as I went through my teens. So that was it really. But I do remember when I was really young, she used to get pretty upset. My mum was a really calm, nice person. She wasn't somebody who you would think, oh, that's a crazy woman or anything like that. She was popular. She had a lot of friends. She was a great mum. But then, like a lot of people, the grip of reality slips. So that would occasionally happen. I mean, I've never spoken about this. In the book I did, and I think maybe I've written I think we wrote one piece about it. But so that was that. And I think when you said to me a minute ago, you knew what you wanted to do. I didn't want to get away from her, but there was a lot of conflict. Having grown up in this beautiful, what seemed like a beautiful sunny childhood, going and watching Willis and Botham destroy the Aussies. Yeah. Or waiting for when the West Indies would come and all the steel drums, or endlessly playing football in the streets or riding bikes, and tremendous amount of freedom. And by the time I was sort of 14, 15, there was a serial killer. The Yorkshire Ripper was killing people in our immediate area. He attacked a woman who was staying at my girlfriend's parents' guest house. He killed his last victim behind the shopping centre. We would go for our... I'd get the bus to school where we'd go and get our shopping every week. There was mass unemployment coming, just to, coinciding with leaving school. There was a real... By the time you get to the early 80s, I was 16, 17, 18, Britain was in a really... It was a divided nation. You'd see this footage of these yuppies on television making champagne glass mountains, pyramids. And meanwhile, the police from London would be sent to fight with the miners in South Yorkshire who were trying to just maintain. All they were trying to do was keep their jobs. So it was very different. And it was like, so and my mum was ill, and I just wanted away from all of it. I wanted excitement. I love music. And the thing is, where there's music, invariably there's bars, live music. And the bands that I hung around with really were signposted where I was going. I hung around with this band who were John Peel favourites called Serious Drinking. They were from Norwich and London, and they wrote a lot. They had a great song called Hangover. And then another local band called the Three Johns, who were pretty successful. They had quite a few good records out. They just used to drink Merrydown and tequila all the time. And when I was at school even, they would take me off around the country to sell their T-shirts. And I was just drinking constantly with these people, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. My friends were still at school. I'd be in Berlin with one of these bands. I'd kind of go off, or I'd be in Hull for a night. I was hitchhiking around the country selling my little fanzine. So that sense of wanting to go somewhere went hand in hand with what I later, when I got into a process of recovery from like addiction and alcoholism, was wanting to change the way I felt. Yeah. And I didn't do a geographical. I didn't want to get away from where I was because I wanted to change how I felt by moving. I just was heading towards the bright light. Obviously, that in this country it was London. Changing the way I felt just came through drinking. And I didn't seem to be able to stop.
From the start, were you drinking differently to your friends?
Well, no, when we were teenagers, I wasn't the kid who'd fall down the stairs drunk. Yeah. That'd be the one, somebody who'd never had a drink at a house party. By the time I was 18, 19, 20, I was drinking till I puked. And it wasn't chaos, but I had, people had to pick me up, physically pick me up sometimes, or come and get me or whatever. And so it was excessive. There was a sense of there was no fence or there was no plug. It was just, if I did start drinking, I could drink and drink and drink and drink. So that was, and then when I joined the music, when I came down to London, I started writing for the music papers. People started giving me free drink.
Yeah.
It was like, it was like throwing gas canisters on an open fire. Mm-hmm. It was just great, and so I would say between years of, when I was 20, 21 and 32, it was probably 11 years of people constantly giving me free drink. I mean, obviously I bought my own drinks, but so that kind of builds up a tolerance, and also nice drinks as well. People would buy, you got these champagne receptions to launch a new album and things like that. So that was unusual in a way, because I think if you work in any other field, alcohol and drugs are not glamorized in most fields of work like they are in the music industry, the entertainment industry, and the media. It was almost seen like a badge of honor. So that allowed my alcoholic behavior just to flourish. And what you said about people turned a blind eye to it because I was really successful, that's true. Mm-hmm. I did things that most people would have got sacked for, but quite often at awards evenings, having fights with people, but I was making people so much money. And thankfully at the end, Condé Nast, who published GQ, they said, "Do you want some help?" And they got their insurance company to pay for some help. Yeah. So I was very lucky in that respect. I was lucky in both ways. One, I didn't have to get the drinks in, and two, I didn't have to pay for my rehab.
Absolutely.
But I've kind of honoured it by sticking with it,
To this day, free drinks are still the hardest drinks for me to turn down. And my wife gets free hotels through her work, and they're always trying to impress her.
Yeah, so when you arrive, you get a free...
Always bottle of champagne. Yeah. She's like, "Come on, hey."
That is a bad one, You're going on a lovely holiday, you get to the hotel, and there's a tray, and they've got cocktails for you.
Every time. At the time, if I take you back to that age, 14, 15, do you think that you were drinking because it was fun, because it was the music industry, because you were with older people? Or was there part of you that was going, it's kind of difficult at home, and my mum's not well, and I kind of want to escape that?
No, by the time I was in the music industry, I was sort of like an automatic drinker. It would be, come on, let's get to the drinks, let's get to the bar. I remember a friend of mine who's clean, he said to me once, when I was still drinking, we were out one night, and we got a bottle of champagne in this club. I got one for the table, and I got one in a bucket of ice under the table for me. So I didn't run out. And he said, hoarding, one of the signs of alcoholism. That was like one of the few. Really? I forgot about that. Again, I've never mentioned that in anything. That was later on, but it just became, if you go to I don't know if it's still like this today, but in 1989, if you went to a music festival like the Reading Festival, there'd be all the music fans out the front wanting to see Henry Rollins or Iggy Pop or whoever they wanted to see, the Chili Peppers. And backstage, there'd be like 7 or 8 tents full of people from the record industry just drinking and talking to each other. And they'd go out for the acts that they liked, then they'd just come back in. And it was just an automatic part of the business. Mm-hmm. And then obviously drugs were another element to that. So it was. I look back at the end of my drinking and think I wasn't comfortable with it then. That's why I stopped. But for a long time, it was fucking great.
Yeah.
And it was, there were things that I did that I think now, what was I doing? There's a few bits in the book. There's bits I didn't put in the book that I just thought, I don't want my kids to read. There were times when I was throwing glasses about at parties, or just what I talked about with the guy confronting me. And I try to be friendly to him, just say, "You're gay," as I'd gone past. And he was so used to being at odds with the world, he took it as some sort of affront. Just headbutting people, fighting, drinking. I've got a great photo of me punching a really influential member of the British music industry from John Peel's birthday party, and I wondered whether to put that in the book. And I thought maybe not, maybe I won't. Maybe it'll just, I don't know, whatever. I decided not to put that in. But there was just, I tell you what it was. This is the thing that I learned. I would never give a fuck about the consequences of my behaviour on myself, but more importantly on anybody else. whether it was sexual behaviour when I was drunk. You spend ages trying to convince somebody you're in love with them and you just want to sleep with them, basically. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even think it was a bad thing never to even call them and say, oh, do you want to meet up again? Yeah. That sort of behaviour. Or being with people I shouldn't have been with in that respect. Aggressive, physically violent behaviour. That's being honest about it, but there was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
There was loads of fun. I can remember being on the top of a van, coming back when I was managing a band. I was dressed all in leather. See how far I could come up a major motorway in Britain at like 2 a.m. on top of the van, on the hard shoulder. And then Steve, the driver, stopped and I just took off. I landed in front of the engine. And he, just stupid stuff. And even like, when I was at Loaded, we started spending a lot of time in South America for obvious reasons. The drinks there were amazing because the South American drinks are like drinks you might have as a kid. They're just so sweet, like pisco sour, obviously margaritas, things like that. They were just, I absolutely love them. And I would do things to purely so I could tell them the next day. Well, exactly. And some of the things were just stupid things. Yeah. When we were at the airport leaving Peru, the table was full of empty glasses of pisco. And it just really, really amused me. I tied the tablecloth to one of the other boys' bag. When he got up and he just pulled all the glasses, that's just... But then when we landed in Aruba on the way back, we'd been in Peru for 2 weeks, and I was the editor of the magazine, and I said to the assistant fashion editor, I said, I don't really want to go back. This place looks good. Let's go. He said, what do you mean? I said, let's not go back to London. Don't worry, I'll put it all on expenses. So we went in the toilets and hid and kept the whole plane of people waiting for about 45 minutes whilst they searched for us. And eventually they found us and they kind of started, please come back and get on the plane. Come on, blah, blah, blah. I said, we don't want to come back. We were still drunk from Peru, 5 hours earlier. And then we were halfway across the airport on this warm night. I hooked up the runway. I just turned to Reese and I just said, run! We were running across the runway. We got to this big hurricane fence outside a tennis court. We were climbing up and there were security people coming. And it wasn't the security people who worked us. It was just, air stewardess. She came over and she said, please come back because we've got to get home, and if you don't have to come, but we have to unload every bag. Mm-hmm. And at that point, a slight twinge of guilt of thinking, I'm messing up this woman's job. Mm-hmm. She probably wants to finish it, not an hour later than she should finish. But there was just constant stupidity. And then at Loaded, we started doing things like testing vodka. We did the Crisps World Cup, we did the Vodka World Cup. We were kind of like consumer testing things. No one ever suggested we stop.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Well, I think anyone that I speak to, like you, who's sort of a glorious historical drinking history, is a collector of stories. A lot of us that drunk were like, we have great stories to tell, and like you're good at retelling them. And it is fun. Like drinking, it's bad to say on the podcast, but for many of us, it's fun for a long time until it isn't. Was there a moment that it sort of flicked for you? Was there a moment or a hangover or a come down when you just went...
Well, I never got hangovers in the end.
Oh, God, I hate you.
What I did was I worked out how to negotiate them. Before I went to bed, I'd have a kind of a 1 or 2 litre bottle of All White's lemonade. And no matter how drunk I was, I'd try and drink as much of that. Because I'd already learnt that what your body's craving when you're hungover is all the sugar and the alcohol. That obviously immediately cuts off when you go to sleep. And then in the morning, whatever was left in wraps in my pocket, or and just have a, finish up whatever remains of the drugs in the pocket. So that give you a little bit of numbness. And then as soon as I got to work, I'd drink a pink lemonade Snapple that was full of sugar. It's like a fruit drink. And then about 3 hours later, I'd just start drinking again. And as long as I slept long enough, if I got a decent night's sleep after I'd been drinking heavily, I was okay. And that was also part of the problem, because when you drink a lot and enough, your body gets used to it and your mind gets used to it. Whereas sometimes, people who may be sporadic drinkers or social drinkers, if they have too much on a mate's night out or a wedding or whatever, it's more of an event, when people, oh God, they had a terrible night. But when you're having a full-on night every night, you just get equipped and you deal to it. And I only really thought about it when I was writing the book. I was a functioning alcoholic. I was winning awards. I was building the sales of the magazines I worked on. But that never really occurred to me at the time. I just thought, I'm inside this whirlwind and it's fucking great. So was there a moment? There were quite a few when I was, I'd be in some bar in a hole in the floor, in the ground in Soho, surrounded by basically late night drinkers, criminals, prostitutes trying to get cut, trying to get warm. People were just sort of rough and ready, end of the night. People who I kind of, when I'd read my Charles Bukowski books, I remember thinking, this sounds great. And then when you're actually in those sort of scenarios, the back of your head, you're just thinking, I could be at home in bed, but I didn't seem to be able to stop. Or there were times when I was just thinking, what am I doing? I had a terrible night, and there was a hotel in King's Cross in Australia. I think it might have been called the Townhouse or something like that, and it was a rock and roll hotel. People told me Elton John stayed there, and people like that. Alice Cooper was there when we were there. I had a lot to drink there, and I'd gone to host the Australian Advertising Awards, do the keynote speech. I was in a terrible mess. I was just about to get married, and I kind of wasn't really sure that was the right thing to be doing. And but I sort of thought it also offers me some sort of stability. But I remember being on the phone to my dad and his girlfriend, just an absolute mess. A bit like I'd been when I was 18 in Berlin, when I'd left school and gone to Berlin with a band, and I couldn't take the tequila and the tequila slammers, it was only 14 years on, but not much had changed. The moment I did stop, I'd been trying to stop. I'd been going through rehab counselling, weekly sessions with an addiction counsellor, and I'd managed to I was trying to limit it through December, limited the amount of lines I was having. And by that point, by that point, the drugs had become seemingly more of a problem. Yeah. But the drink, that's how bad it was. The excessive drinking was just seen as sort of relatively okay. Yeah, yeah. And I ended up going on holiday with my wife to somewhere nice in the Virgin Islands or somewhere. And then we came back via New York, and I met the guy I first lived with in London. We started drinking, and it got worse and worse. And I was trying to buy some drugs on the street. And I ended up getting into a scuffle with a guy because he was obviously ripping me off. And this guy I was with, he was sort of one of the last connections to that famous gang, the Westies. Okay. The Westies were hitmen for the Italian mafia. They were an Irish gang. And I had a friend who'd hooked me up with this guy from them. And he said, how much gear do you want? Why don't you just ask it for me? I can get you. You'd have to get it on the street, get into a fight. So I ordered a huge amount. And my wife said, I think if you get that, later back at the hotel, she said, I think if that guy brings you those drugs, you're not going to come back. Maybe we should go home. Mm-hmm. And I could see she was really worried by this point. She was training to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. She was sort of in the shadow of this maniac. Yeah. 2 days later, I was back in London at the counsellor. And I described what happened. And he said, you sound scared of yourself. And that was my moment of clarity. As I describe in the book, he did this brilliant thing with his arm. He drew a clock in the air. And he said, the 6 here at the bottom is when alcoholics and addicts bottom out. And because I didn't know what he meant, he said, well, you get raped, murdered, you get incarcerated, you maybe got a mental hospital. I was like, he described this really terrible, worst case scenario. People die. I said, where am I? He said, you're coming up to 25 past. He said, you've still got a nice, great job. You've got people who care about you. You've got a lot of things to lose, but you're going fast towards that. And when he said, you sound scared of yourself, I'd never thought about that. And he said to me, you're an alcoholic, James. I remember saying to him, are you sure? And we both laughed because he was obviously right. But he'd never, in 6 months of counselling, he'd never been prescriptive like that. We'd just talk through my behaviour. And that was it. And that was the moment when I realised this is going to get worse. And I remember a guy pulling a knife on me in Soho when I was drunkenly shouting at somebody. And then, there was another night in New York when I was halfway out the window with holding onto a television, the Chelsea Hotel. I drove past there recently with a friend of mine who works at Vogue. He said, do you want a bit of a tour around? So we go down the road past the Chelsea Hotel. I didn't say anything to the 3 other people in the car. I was just looking up at that hotel window, quite high up, thinking, what the fuck was I doing? Yeah. That question you asked about why was I drink? What was the subconscious motive? Mm-hmm. Was and through my drinking, it was only when I got into recovery that I discovered the phrase, the idea is that you're on a slow suicide sort of thing. Yeah. I used to think like that. I used to think I wanted to be with my mum. The little kid inside me, not the adult. Although the adult was there in my professional performance and the success. But the kid inside me who really had replaced sweets with alcohol. I just remember thinking, what was I doing? Was I showing off? I think my son was in the car. Really? That's why I didn't say anything. Yeah. He was like in his early 20s, so he'd been about 18 or 19 then. And I genuinely was I showing off to the guys in the room? Did I want to throw a TV out of the window? I was naked. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to I've never tried to kill myself. I've never, having been through that with my mum, I don't want to visit that on my relatives and my children. But it was, this is a very mature talk. If we'd been talking like 30 years ago, and I'd just been banging on about how great it was drinking excessively. But
I'd written down that line that you sound like you're scared of yourself, James. Sort of turning point in your life, sort of significant sentence.
It, really.
Do you know whether or not at the time or since being in recovery, what the root of that fear was?
The root of the fear?
Yeah.
Which fear?
You're scared of yourself, and that's why you're living this life.
That is a great question. I was generally pretty paranoid. Mm-hmm. So if I was walking home from a club or a gig late at night, I would always walk. You're going to laugh at where I'm going with this. And I've never talked about this. Walking down the middle of the road, wary of somebody jumping at. Leeds was, although Headingley was a nice area, Leeds city centre was a violent place. Mm-hmm. And then with the this fear of this man killing women, you didn't know really nobody knew anything about him. You're kind of worried maybe he'll start killing kids, men, boys, So walking home in my duffel jacket, you'd think, God, there was just general fear of terror and paranoia, obviously more so for the women. So that was there, that was playing up there. Maybe just, when I was born, my mum was ill. Mm-hmm. So there was some separation there for a couple of months while she got better. It probably stems initially from that. But even, I used to lie as a child in my bedroom and work out where I'll go if a lion got in the room. Like, I've never said that to anybody, but I don't know what that was about, but that was fear. Yeah. And I think I'm not fearful now because I just take each day as it comes. And actually, what I find myself doing is if I do start worrying of like, oh, I'm not getting stimulated through work, or what happens if that money kind of doesn't happen there or whatever. I mean, just things that people think about. Invariably, it's not thinking about the day. He's thinking about what will happen in a year, or you look at me now. I don't have the face of somebody who's had a hard life because I haven't. Yeah. Physically, I go out a bit in the middle, but I've had a really nice life. Mm-hmm. Despite the challenges of things, but I have had a really nice life, in my mind, I still think I look like some sort of like English cheap supermarket version of Michael Hutchins. Do you know what I mean? Because when I was editing Loaded, I had this thick curly hair and glasses. I still think I think a lot of people have a perception of how they are. Yeah. I still think I'm thin. I mean, I know I'm not thin now, but I remember the first time I realised I wasn't thin. I was playing football on a Sunday morning with the now British Prime Minister, and afterwards, Gary, my mate, said, "Did you hear whatever the other centre back was called when I stormed past him? I stormed past him and scored." He turned to Gary, my mate, and he said, "He's pretty fast for a fat guy, isn't he?"
No.
I remember thinking, I'm not fat.
Good feet for a fat lad.
So the idea that if you start worrying about what might happen in 10 years' time, I mean, you know, a lion might burst in and eat us both. That's the sort of paranoia that went through my head as a kid. But you cannot tell where your life's going to go. So try and just put the fear away and just be accepting of what's coming and just deal with it in a way that you can. You know, however you can deal with things. But, of course, when you're drinking, one of you's thinking, you're rushing towards the headlights. Then when you're halfway there, you realise it's a car.
Yeah.
And then part of you goes, "It's okay, we'll jump over the car." And then the other half's going, "Get out of the way, you idiot.
You can't jump.
And then you get out of the way and you start shouting and screaming at the car because it's the car's fault.
Yeah.
Everything is, I mean, that was one of the things. Everything was always other people's fault. And I see that in people who aren't drinkers, but it's really prevalent in people. They can't own, we can't own
for sure
our responsibility for our involvement in things. You had to kind of unravel all of these reasons. I can't drink on a plane anymore. Can't drink on a train anymore. Can't drink in a restaurant. Can't drink at a birthday party.
Yeah.
Everything that legitimised drinking had slowly. It was like a reverse advent calendar. You were just shutting the doors and all this stuff. But in a way, I was lucky because I knew I wanted to stop, and I kind of was prepared to stop. And I've never really. Well, I've never had a drink deliberately since. I've had a couple of been given the wrong. Too. Here's your lemonade, and it's fucking gin and tonic. That's happened a couple of times. I didn't like that, but I was just very clear. And I was at lunch one time with one of the writers I work with, a guy called Tony Parsons, who's a sort of best-selling novelist now. And the waitress asked a second time if I'd like a drink, and Tony was having a wine, and he said to her, "It's fine. He's thought about it. He knows he doesn't want one." And it was a nice thing to do, because he knew I was taking it seriously, but I had thought about it. I thought about it a lot.
About 20 years. Yeah.
Well, I'd thought about it intensely for a couple of years about stopping, in as much as I thought about drinking. I get to a point. Yeah, it's good. I always loved coming to Australia. I mean, a lot of nice wine there. I used to love drinking wine, but also there was a great book from Australia that was a big influence on Loaded. And I kind of only vaguely remembered it when I was writing Animal House, because there was nothing in particular. The magazines that copied Loaded just got Loaded out and said, "How can we be a bit different?" And that was a copy. We were in virgin territory. The team that I put together and we could just put in what we wanted. But I'd read this book called "He Died with a Falafel in His Hand" by a guy called John Birmingham. I just looked it up. And it was really funny, and it was just about gangs of young Aussie guys trying to exist on not much money, crashing out on each other's floors, and actually at that time, most of the Australians you met in London in the early 90s or late 80s, there'd usually about 15 of them living in one flat, and when one of them found a flat, a lot of the others had come over and moved in with them. So if you ever had a couple of mates from Australia and New Zealand worked on the enemy, and one of them worked with the Pogues, and they're just a bit like these clusters of mates that appear. The Irish are like that as well. They have big friendship groups. But this book was really funny, and it was just about men as they really were, albeit at the bottom of the economic scale. And I can remember thinking, this has got a great attitude. This is, it was just what guys are like together. So I don't know if you're still alive, John, or if anyone knows John Birmingham, but thank him. I really enjoyed it. It was a great book.
We should come back to fear briefly.
Yes.
Because
I've distracted you from the hard.
No,
is this okay? I thought this was quite a light podcast.
Well, it is, but my favourite bit's the tangent, so I sort of don't want to interrupt you too much.
No.
But
these are great questions. I've never been asked some of these questions.
Oh, I'm glad. But so the fear, so your mum's passing sort of coincided with your career kind of taking off. You started Loaded a couple of years after. So what I was curious about...
Months after.
Was it months after?
I got offered a chance to start my own magazine 7 months after she died.
Okay.
So 6 months after she died.
What I was curious about is, did you have time to grieve?
No. As you understand it now, whether you think about adult relationships with children that end, or... I mean, I've not had anyone that close to me die since. I've had good friends die. I mean, it was a barren wasteland in terms of any consideration for family grieving, mental health, insight into what might have been going on in her house. One friend gave me a copy of an article she'd photocopied out of Marie Claire magazine, and she'd said, this might help. And it was an article about a woman who had 5 immediate family members, sisters and both parents, had died of cancer. And I just looked at it thinking, what's this got to do with my mum, taking her own life, diving an overdose? Instead of thinking about what had happened and having some help, nowadays, whatever happens to you in your life, you can just pick your phone up and Google it, and you'll find people talking about it on YouTube. You'll find in-depth studies of it at universities. You find celebrities talking about it. You find news stories. I mean, you find hundreds of thousands of references to whatever your problem is. There was nothing at all. So obviously, the only thing I wanted to do was numb the feeling of despair and shock. I mean, it took my mum died in 92, probably 10 years ago. A woman's therapist that I've been seeing for about 19 years, she said, you've had PTSD, the shock of your mum's death. So I think the alcohol was doing 2 things. On the surface level, it was kind of like the candles on the cake. It was like, oh, great, this is exciting. And on a deeper level, it was numbing my feelings. But I probably wasn't aware of that at the time.
That is what alcohol does, isn't it? It intensifies the highs and it numbs out the lows.
Yeah.
And then sobriety is sort of about trying to feel those emotions.
But also there was a book I read by a guy who'd written on the NME before me called William Leith. It was called The Hungry Years. It was about his problems with food. In it, he described growing up with his sense of being a big hole in his solar plexus and trying to constantly fill that hole. And when I read that, I got identification. That's what I'd felt like. And then I think, another type of hole is the best way, once I'd got sober, that I found to describe my drinking was, it felt like somebody had turned both taps on in a bath and taken the plug out, and it would just keep going forever. I never felt like I had a plug, and if there was any time there was a bit of a plug, he'd just go over the sides, which is obviously like when you're throwing up.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, there's much more space now, and that was one of the first things that struck me when I stopped drinking. The days are so long.
I know.
I used to finish work about 7:00. I'm thinking, there's literally probably about another 7 hours here. And also, I got all these big bumps in my gums when my body started detoxing. I couldn't sleep. I said to the counsellor, I can't sleep at night. He said, you've been drinking yourself to sleep for years. So, and wearing myself out, I'd be getting in at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I'd be back at GQ at 10:00 or at Loaded at 10:00. And which is a late start for most people's professional lives in the pre-working from home days. But
I think you wrote when you first went sober, you had all this time in your hands. You're like, what am I going to do with it? I'm not going to play golf. I'm also like, not a golfer. How do you feel it? How have you found, in sobriety, all of this time is given back to you?
Well, the first thing I did was I started another magazine, which didn't go down well with my deputy because he was wondering where the fuck I was. But I went to the football club who had some great Australian players, Viduka, Kewell, and so on, and Jacob Burns, and many of them. There were like 7 players at the club from down, I think one from New Zealand and 6 from Australia.
I don't know why that was. Yeah, Leeds and Australia had a love relationship with it.
So we said, let's start a magazine. I'll get all these great professional journalists to work for, whatever rate you've got, because they're all fans. So I started doing that. That ended up selling. That became the acorn that, when I left GQ, became the start of my company. And then I used to drive home from Mayfair and stop at King's Cross, which is now, if you are coming to London, there's a very nice area around the back of King's Cross. They've got restaurants, they've got shops, they've got St Martin's Art College, they have live screens of cinema across the canal.
Dishoom.
It's quite Dishoom's. It's quite there's a Waitrose. It's quite a sort of a nice area. But back then it was basically just night clubs in warehouses owned by gangsters and a driving range. And I said to my best mate in Leeds, who was a teacher, I said, how do you unwind? I'm literally so tense not being able to drink. And he said he goes to the golf course, he envisages the face of a kid who's annoyed him, and he drives the ball down the range. Now, the only person that was annoying me was myself. I liked the people that I work with. But I found that just helped a little bit. And in the same way as I would be influenced to take drugs because Iggy Pop took drugs, I remember reading that Iggy Pop had taken up golf so that was quite a good decompression hour, just getting a wire basket of balls and smashing them down the lane. It wasn't even grass, it must have been AstroTurf. But so that was kind of that was the and filling the time. Well, I don't know what it was like for my wife, but I never even really spoke to her about it that much. She just said I would go out, and she didn't know when I was going to come back. He might come back from work on Saturday morning, or go out on Saturday, tea time, and come back 24 hours later. Or she said once I went out on Friday and didn't come back till Sunday, but I can't remember that.
I don't think you would.
I don't think that's true.
I'm conscious of time, James, so I don't want to keep you any longer. But I do want to say, on behalf of us, me and Vic, a huge thank you. Your story's great because you don't sugarcoat it. You share the fun bits and then you explain the harder bits.
Yeah.
That's something we always try and do on Sober All, because it's easy to sort of say sobriety is great and drinking's bad, and it's actually never quite as black and white as that.
Well, I think I felt like, because at Loaded, it totally gone out of the way to champion drinking and excessive behaviour, and then even later drug use. I was lucky enough to find a way beyond that and into a different sort of life. So I felt a responsibility to do that. And because I've been quite open about this sort of thing, if people ever ask me about it, people do come to me quite a lot. 3 or 4 times a year, somebody will come to me and say, I've got a family member with a problem, can you talk to them? That's good. You point them give them whatever bit of wisdom you can, listen, and then point them in the direction of a professional. But I just felt, we've had a really serious talk. The book's full of excessive behaviour, and it's, I know that it's funny because people have told me it's funny. People find it funny, and that when you heard me laughing on the audio book, the reason that is, I'm particularly where I'm describing going to an awards evening where we've all taken LSD.
It's the best. That is the highlight of the book.
But I wrote that at the very beginning, so when I was I'd never finished I never read the book. I wrote it in chunks, and then the editor and I put together, running order, and it reads, obviously, it flows all the way through, but when I came to do the audio book, there were things I'd written, maybe 5 or 6, one piece, 10. The piece about going to South America with Happy Mondays, I'd written that about 2012. So I was just laughing. I was laughing at how stupid it is and how silly it is, and also how excessive and what I could get away with. So there's masses of it, but I just felt like obviously I've spoken to other recovering addicts many times, and I've listened to other recovering addicts and alcoholics, that I need to put that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
I never preach. I don't. If somebody wants to drink, that's their issue, unless, like the guy in the street, he's getting in other people's faces. People can do what they want. I just found, I used to love it, but I found that I'm a better person for other people to be around if I'm not staggering around the street with a bottle in one hand and a load of noise coming out of my mouth, which, to be honest, the people that worked with me during my drinking years would say that's what I was like every day. And I think a lot of tolerance was required for the people around me. But it's been I've really enjoyed doing this interview.
Thank you very much.
And my mate in Tokyo recommended you guys get in touch. I'm really, really glad that he did that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, James. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
They have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?
I don't know, just write it on the document.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Hey, I'm Paige DeSorbo, and I'm always thinking about underwear.
I'm Hannah Berner, and I'm also thinking about underwear, but I prefer full coverage. I like to call them my granny panties.
Actually, I never think about underwear. That's the magic of Tommy John.
Same. They're so light and so comfy, and if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
And the bras, soft, supportive, and actually breathable.
Yes, Lord knows the girls need to breathe. Also, I need my PJs to breathe and be buttery soft and stretchy enough for my dramatic tossing and turning at night. That's why I live in my Tommy John pajamas.
Plus, they're so cute because they fit perfectly.
Put yourself on to Tommy John.
Upgrade your drawer with Tommy John. Save 25% for a limited time at TommyJohn.com/comfort. See site for details.
So, as you probably know, my comedy memoir, 1,000 Wasted Sundays, is officially out. All my magnificent fuck-uppery in one awkward hit. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy, it's now available from all good bookstores.
We always say all good bookstores, don't we?
Yeah.
Are there bad bookstores?
No, it's probably ones with moody sellers.
Oh yeah, really
Yeah.
depressed librarian folk.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. So there are probably some, but we're only storing it in the good ones.
It's only made it into the goodies.
You can also get it from all good online retailers. The print version and ebook are out now, and the audiobook will be available in March. I've been writing my memoir for 5 years. It will make you laugh, cry and cringe, and hopefully inspire a few people to reconsider their relationship with booze. If you love the podcast, then I think you'll love the book, even if I do say so myself. Hamish has read it. What did you think?
I feel like I know a little bit too much about you now, to be honest, Vic. Look, I really loved it. It was hilarious and surprisingly moving, but I feel like I've seen you naked in a literary sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah. From an emotional point of view, seriously, it wobbled my teeny weeny wooden heart, Vic.
Okay.
My teeny little wooden heart.
Well, his wooden heart is broken. Anyway, so if you do manage to get your filthy mitts on a copy, please do me a favour and head to goodreads.com and give me a review. Doing that will help me get it out there to those that need a bit of sober support. So there you have it. My story, unwanted warts and all. Come and get awkward with me.
Not to be too demanding or anything, but seriously, go and buy it now.
Go and buy it right now.
Yeah, don't just tell your friends, buy it, and then buy your friends one or two.
Yeah, don't give them a copy, buy it, yeah.
And you know what, don't be careful where you store it. If you lose it, you can always buy another 5.
Buy another one.
Yeah.